You think she's a good girl, but once you get to know her, you realize she's everything. She's crazy, she's funny, she's honest, and you'll never know what she'll do next.
Oh my God, I'm so excited you came back. This is going to be so exciting. Today I have Andrew Moskovitz. Hello, Andrew. Thank you for coming. He came over from Vermont. Is that what I heard you say? Oh my goodness. I am so excited and thankful that you came today to talk to us a little bit about what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. And you came over with information about Incite Coaching. Is that correct?
That's right.
That's the name of your company. And how did you hear about us, Andrew?
I actually found you through Need a Guest.
Need a guest. Okay, and we're getting a few guests from that. All right. And so that's needaguest.com. Is that how people find podcasts?
That's how podcasts find guests, and they also have quite a few, like they rank all of their shows, and you were up there.
All right. Well, there we go. I'm happy to hear that. Okay, so anyway, I want to hear your 30-minute, we'll talk to him for 30 minutes, but 30-second story about who you help and how you help people.
Yeah. Well, the short version is that I primarily work with stuck, affluent families, kids, teens and young adults. Oftentimes, the generosity that is intended to help removes the conditions for building grit and resilience, and I come in to bridge that gap.
Now, why did you decide to work with teens, young adults, families? Have you had some experience with teens? Did you have kids?
I have a 4-year-old daughter.
Oh, congratulations. That's wonderful. Are you going to have more?
That's the plan.
Okay, that's really exciting. I've got 4 daughters who are getting married this year, you may know. And so that it only gets better.
Yeah. Well, my whole career has been spent working with teens, young adults, and at one point, even little kids in a hospital setting. And, I as much as I love adults and my peers, teens and young adults have their whole lives in front of them. And so there's a lot of room to grow and figure things out. That's why it's been my population of choice.
Wow. Okay. And so at what point do you hear how a child is doing, or a red flag hits and you're like, this kid needs some help?
Yeah. Well, my background is in the program work. So I've worked residential. I founded residential programs for young adults. I've worked in hospitals. And I wouldn't say that there's a single red flag or even multiple red flags that say I need X level of care, right?
Okay.
I think oftentimes parents have to be educated on how to use their leverage in order to implement some sort of regime change, whether that's programmatic or coaching. And there are times where someone calls me and it's clear to me that they need a higher level of care. Maybe it's because there's something going on behaviorally. So that's always a kind of a dance between me and someone reaching out for help.
Okay. And how do they know how do they find you? How do people find you?
So I've been doing this work in some form or fashion forever, my entire career. I've never done anything else. So I have
do you have education? Do you go to school for something like this?
I did, yeah.
What's your education?
So I was a clinician in the hospital. I was a mental health counselor for Children's Hospital of Colorado, and have been in the administration side of the program space for about 15 years.
Wow.
So that's, I went to college and school and all of that. But yeah, I would say the most helpful piece of my education has just been the work.
And so how do you identify kids that you're sure that you can help?
So that's kind of a loaded question. I'll tell you why. So willingness to change, desire to change, oftentimes stemming from in a crisis, whether actual or perceived. It can be emotional, it can be behavioral, it can be environmental. Someone that is saying, I don't want to feel this way anymore, is someone I can help. If they need a tighter container because there's something going on beyond, like, that needs a higher level of supervision, or maybe there is no idea of what's going on clinically, sometimes there's a step before me that is necessary.
So I'm thinking of it as a mother's point of view, right? And so, and probably you have some kind of confidence with the child that you can't share exactly what they talk about with the parents, correct?
100%. Yes.
And so always is it kind of situation where the parents come find you, or if you had children come find you as well?
So I've had children find me, I've had young adults find me, I've had parents find me, therapists know who I am, educational consultants know who I am, some hospitals know who I am, some boarding schools know who I am. So I get business from a lot of different channels, but the largest one is actually word of mouth from previous families.
That's a great compliment to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great. So can you tell me like a common story that you hear? Like, what is the common person that you work with?
So I think one of the, and this is, I don't know that I would say that this is contrarian, but it's certainly not a mainstream conversation. I think oftentimes the behaviors that we seek to diagnose, the emotions that we seek to medicate for, don't really treat the underlying cause. I think there is some comfort that is taken in this idea that like, hey, some things that are going on are not your fault. There's some biological underpinning or whatever. But I think, like if you just take something like ADD or ADHD, so attention deficit disorder, my take is that 100% of the increased prevalence from the 90s till now is because of pervasive tech use.
That makes sense.
So if you think about like,
I was wondering what you think about medications for that.
Medications can be an incredible help, but my own take is that medications can help you provide the foundation to do the work, but they're not going to solve your problem.
Okay. But are you in favor of medications?
Yes.
Okay.
They're very helpful for a lot of people. I think we are in a culture of over prescribing. It's like, it's like there is some imbalance there that I wade through quite often, but in general, I think medications can be a helpful part of the solution.
I come from a holistic background where I'm always like, do whatever you can before you have to get on a medication and get dependent on it. Correct?
Yes.
So I was wondering at what point do you say, okay, look, we got to go to the medical route. We got to,
So
you need more help than I can give you right now, right?
Well, I think it's more about like, is there something going on that medication is going to help give you a better launch pad to do the work that's necessary or to practice the skills or whatever the case may be? It's very easy to find someone that will prescribe you medications.
Sure.
And it's very difficult to find someone that is interested in getting you to a place and then tapering you off, And so when I connect someone with a prescribing person, that's really what I'm looking for, is not just like, hey, are you willing to treat this person, but are you willing to give them an off ramp if they achieve stability or their symptoms change?
And now I just realized right now that I'm talking to one of my daughters actually went through this, and it was a couple of years ago. She was going through a really difficult time, and she had someone that she was talking to over the telephone that helped her through this, and she was on medication at that time. She's not anymore, and in fact, she just got married.
Good for her.
And she's living the life of her dreams now.
Yeah.
But she did go through a very difficult time, and someone like you helped her through this. And so I just realized that just now talking to you.
That's a great story.
So I have a story of my own, right?
Yeah.
So
that's an incredible success story. And this idea that you're supposed to be comfortable and achieve your goals, those things are exclusive most of the time. Like having an emotional crisis, not full blown, like 5-alarm fire, but experiencing discomfort is actually what drives building resiliency and growth. So your daughter went through this period of time where she was struggling, she sought help, and that is actually like the biggest catalyst for achieving the life that you want.
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, I was living on the other side of Florida at the time, and it was her father's now stepmother, her wife, his wife, that actually recommended this lady for her to help her.
Yeah.
And paid for it for her to help her. And
That's amazing.
that was an amazing gift. Yeah. And so I think a lot of what you do, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Thank you.
Now, I read something last night that said that you've said you are not your feelings. What do you mean by that?
Well, the example I like to give is that if there's ever been a time where you were so sad or so angry that you convinced yourself that you would never be happy again, and then you went to sleep and you woke up the next morning and you woke up feeling completely different. Feelings are fleeting. And because they're fleeting, they are a terrible foundation for decision making. So figuring out a code that you want to live your life by, a rubric for how you make decisions, is really critical. And that's what I mean. We aren't our feelings. We're not defined by them. Although it's easy, especially when you're really struggling, to feel like they're deterministic.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what do you mean by failure to launch? What's that about?
I actually really dislike that label, but it is somewhat encompassing of what it's describing.
This man is hard to find information on because he doesn't do social media, right?
I practice what I preach. I think we live in a time where you have to be ever more intentional about guarding your brain, taking control over your emotions and your thoughts. The ultimate freedom lives in self-mastery. And so, I practice what I preach. It is jarring for some people that I'm not findable on social media or that I don't have motivational TikTok
probably
videos.
Because they want to learn more about you to see if they want to work with you, correct? And that's why I am on social media, so people can see what I am and what I'm about, so they can decide if they want to be on my show or not.
I mean, I think, look, it's not much more complicated than me trying to guard my energy and my time and my attention in a way that allows me to do my own growth and my own new perspective seeking. When you read a book, you learn how to think, and when you're on social media, you get told what to think. And I think that that's really important.
Okay, that's an interesting distinction. So I interrupted you, I think, when you were talking about how instead of ADD, you think that kids have a tech addiction. Which I would agree.
So I think it's not a young person problem, actually. It's a
human problem, right?
I mean, really regardless of age. And what I mean is that, if you're staring at a screen that changes every 2 seconds, that's full of bright colors and everything pretty that you want to look at, and then you go sit down and you're a college student and you want to write a paper, it's going to feel pretty difficult because it is way different than any of the ways that you're pacifying your time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I think is it can be a useful metric, but it's also misleading, is this idea of measuring screen time. Because part of the problem is that no one has downtime for their brain. So it's not actually, if you're a very busy person, but all of your in-between time is scrolling Instagram or whatever the case may be, that's going to leave a huge impact in your brain's ability to integrate your experience, your emotions, and your thoughts. Right?
Okay.
So when you pacify all of your in-between time, people don't even go to the bathroom anymore without their phone, or they change rooms, or they switch seats and they look at their phone. In some ways, we need to normalize boredom, because it's very hard to know what you think if you don't think. Like, what is the best training for thinking?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So how can parents play a role in this? What's your advice to parents that may have a child that they feel is going through a hard time, that they don't feel like they know what to do to help?
So I think the hardest thing for parents is to raise their hand and say, I don't know how to solve this problem. And it is, I take my hat off to parents that look for help, because it is an incredibly powerless feeling to watch a kid struggle and to say, I don't have the tools or the knowledge or the ability to help my child. And so, it's always good to bring in another resource. Sometimes that's a therapist or a coach or a counselor. One of the interesting things that happens from, just developmentally from like mid-teens until mid-20s is that this is the time for individuation. So even when your parents are right, it's very hard to learn from them. And, baked into our culture in the 50s, 60s, and before was having a mentor, or you would do an apprenticeship, or your first boss took you under their wing, or a family friend.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't really happen anymore,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a big part of the role that I play, is like helping you learn the things that developmentally it's very difficult for you to learn from your parents.
Okay. All right. So if you're not your feelings, how do you help someone to live?
Well, feelings are important. So when I say you are not your feelings, I don't mean to discount them. I think validating what you feel, naming it, understanding it, I think is important. But it's not the best foundation to figure out how to live your life.
Okay.
And so I help clients develop a vision for what they actually want, separate of their parents, because especially someone in high school or early college, you ask them what they want. It's like some litany of things that they've been told their whole life by their parents, what to expect, what's good, what's right, what's wrong, all of those things. And, it's very hard to have direction without a vision. I'm a big fan of this idea that, if you have a compelling enough reason why, you can overcome almost any how.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of motivating change is helping young people cultivate and identify their own real reason, internal reason to achieve the next level.
Okay. So what kind of patterns should parents notice in their children to know that they might need help?
Sure. I mean, I'll answer that just kind of describing the split between how clients come to me.
Okay.
So sometimes it's full-blown crisis, like no one can ignore the problem any longer.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's, maybe there's some social withdrawal or grades are slipping, but really the wheels aren't coming off the cart. But you can start to see like, wow, if this continues, things could get problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I have a coach. Most of the most successful people in the world have coaches. So
I think everybody needs a mentor. That's what I'm learning.
For
right?
sure. And
to be successful, there's always someone more successful you should be learning from, right?
That's right. And I think another trap that people fall into is this idea that if I just do enough work, then I'll never have to do the work again. And that's not really true. I think
you have to always be working on yourself.
Among
right?
the best things that you can do is to fall in love with the challenge, to see it as a lifelong process.
Exactly.
And so that's what I try and help people understand. But back to patterns and families. When you see problematic behavior, it's best to seek advice or counsel, because you don't want things to metastasize in a way that you have to do something even more robust. For many families, my role is, how do we course correct now so that this person doesn't end up needing more robust treatment intervention?
I mean, how drastic have you seen children? Like, have you seen children that are in a situation where their parents can't even travel with them?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Can you share any of that?
Well,
just so people out there can know what. Hey,
sure.
They're not the only ones.
I mean, if you have someone that is oppositionally defiant or that is incredibly impulsive, that can manifest in any number of unhelpful ways in travel and vacation.
Right.
I mean, it's already a problem just living at home.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine that if you're having an issue living at home, travel or being in a social setting or a restaurant can be problematic.
How can they recreate the pattern that's beginning then?
What do you mean?
Well, if they're having a problem being able to leave the house with their child, how can they recreate the situation they're in or that their child is in to be able to more positively affect the world out there?
Once you have a path to create stability, then you understand how to replicate it elsewhere. And sometimes I'll just say, if the problem is occurring at home, sometimes home is the problematic environment.
Okay.
So it's not always the case that just because you're having an issue at home, you can't leave, right? Sometimes leaving is actually a helpful pattern interrupt for something that's going on at home.
Okay. Do you have a 7-day plan that you work with for like someone who's 19 to 28 years of age, or what?
So, everything that I do is highly individualized, because openness to change, openness to tools really determines the path, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if someone is, sometimes parents give their kids an ultimatum to work with me, right?
Right.
You're either going to work with this person or you're going to go do this less enjoyable thing. And as you can imagine, for some kids, that's going to create a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
So the first 7 days can be about building rapport and getting their guard down, or the first 7 days for someone that's really open to change can be completely action and solution oriented. So it really, there aren't any two people that are the same, even if over time there are overlaps in like effective tools, if that makes sense.
So what do you look for, or what do you teach your students to stay accountable between sessions with you?
So I actually am the accountability measure in between sessions oftentimes. So I have clients that I talk to every day. I have clients that I talk to once a week. I have clients that I talk to 3 times a week. And so depending on where are their struggles, what are their pitfalls, what are the behavioral traps that they're likely to fall into, and then how much scaffolding is actually needed in order to address those things. So, at the end of a session, we're always talking about like, what does the next 24 hours need to look like? What does the next 3 days need to look like? What's your hit list? What are the things that we're working on? So there is a framework for accountability, but I am, one of the amazing things about technology is being able to be in constant contact.
Great.
So, if someone's having a hard time waking up in the morning, I'm their guy. If someone's having a hard time sitting down and getting off their phone to do their homework, I'm their guy. So we do set up like, hey, here's how you'll know if you're on the right track. But I'm a very high touch coach.
And do you offer retreats or anything like that?
I do domestic and international retreats.
Because I heard you say before our interview that you only are doing private sessions now.
So my coaching is all one-on-one, and the retreats are not all the time, right?
Okay.
Like the retreats are for a couple of reasons. One, when you travel, when you change your environment, when you're in a different structure, it's easier to break your siloed thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily the case that you have to go to another country, but it is helpful to change your environment.
Wow, you go to another country? That's impressive.
I do, yeah.
Do the parents come or just the kids?
No, just the kids.
Wow.
And this year was in Bogota, Colombia. Next year will be in Portugal.
I like that.
And it's
how old are the kids that go with you?
Young adult.
Young adult. So that'd be like over 18.
Yep, 18 plus.
Okay.
Yeah, and the idea is that you can build community with other people that are trying to work on themselves, trying to level up, and it's super fun to have excursions and service learning and personal growth opportunities, working out, cooking, dancing classes, language classes.
Interesting. That is really interesting. I'd have never known this. See, if you hadn't found me on Need a Guest, I'd never known this was available. Okay, so do you have any kind of a micro tool script that you work with or anything like that?
So, I think if you think about what is your primary objective when you're upset, and I'll interrupt myself for a second. If you are super upset, oftentimes you imagine that only solving this thing or achieving this thing will deal with your upset. And your primary objective when you're upset needs to be to change your state. How easy is it to do something you're excited about? Even waking up at 3 a.m. to go to the airport is easy if you're really excited about where you're going, right? So learning how to change your state, how to calm yourself down is really important, much more important than all the solutions you imagine when you're upset. So one of my favorite tools for that, and this is really simple, is breathing in a 1-4-2 ratio. So what I mean by that is for every 1 second of inhale, you're going to hold for 4, and then you're going to exhale for 2. So like our natural breathing is probably different, but for me, it's like an inhale of 7, hold for 28, exhale for 14, and do that 5 to 10 times, and it will calm your nervous system.
Breathing exercises you're teaching.
That's one of the things. Yeah, that's one of the easiest and most accessible and least costly things that you can do.
And you can do that over the phone.
You can do it over the phone. You can do it. Most of my calls are actually over video, but you can do it at any time. Also, if you're having a hard time turning your brain off before you go to sleep, that's a great time to use that as well.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about Urban Edge.
So Urban Edge was a young adult transitional living program in Denver. It was a mentorship immersion experience for young adults. Most of our clients were either failing out of school and coming directly from school, had already left school for home and were coming from home, or were coming from some sort of primary intervention, so another program. And this was all about teaching them everyday life skills, and plugging them into apprenticeship and mentorship opportunities in the community of Denver to get professional exposure, and to work on all of the, just like, how do you balance a checkbook? How do you learn to cook? All of these things. So we spearheaded giving kids room to fail without getting kicked out of the program. So for a long time, programs were like a one strike and you're out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you were in a substance abuse program and you smoked weed, that was it. You were done. You had to find somewhere else to go get treatment. We felt like if we could create enough room for kids to fail without getting kicked out of the program, they'd be able to make a lot more of the mistakes that they were going to make anyways outside of a program, but within it, and to have the support, not just for the kid, but for the family as well.
Is there ever a time when you're like, this kid is in crisis, therapy isn't working? Like, what am I going to do to help? There's nothing I can do. I've tried everything. So, what do you do then?
So I'm often not found just when therapy isn't working. A lot of times I'm a complement to therapy, because one of the things that
So you're not the therapy?
No.
Okay.
One of the things that I noticed in my program is that I would have clients that were saying that therapy was helpful. They would have aha moments, so to speak, but they were living the same day to day, right? And why is that? Because integration and application and everyday tools is typically not part of therapy. Many clinicians do teach those things, and that's great.
Okay.
But by and large, it's like understanding your feelings, feeling validated for your feelings. And while that's helpful, it doesn't actually teach you how to live. Even if you're like, oh, now I know where this behavior, XYZ behavior came from. I learned it from my mom or my dad or this thing I saw online or whatever the case may be, right? So coaching is all about...
So this is coaching versus therapy.
Yes.
Correct?
Coaching is all about how do you integrate all of this awareness into everyday living? What are the things that you need to do when you wake up and before you go to bed in order to keep yourself oriented towards your goals? So this is, everything that I teach is very practical, everyday tools, how to rewire your brain for the outcome that you want. A daily mental fitness routine, if you will.
Have you gone through any of this yourself?
Yep.
You needed it. So
Yep.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's how you recognize it in others. Because I'm thinking about adversity. I always want to know, what kind of adversity have you been through?
Yeah. So I went to a program when I was 19. Without getting into details, I had some crazy and unfortunate things happen in my life my sophomore year of college. And I say that I learned two primary things in that program. One, that I could be happy with very little, and two, that I wanted to be in the helping business forever.
That's awesome.
It was very deterministic.
I'm so happy that you shared that. Thank you so much. Well, anyway, we're going to get to James's question in just a minute. First, I've got to give you the real estate minutes this week. And this week I was thinking it'd be really interesting to talk about the kind of psychology that buyers are going through, the kind of that hold them back. Okay, since today we talked about clarity and emotional alignment, I wanted to tie this into something I see every day in real estate, and that's decision fatigue. When you're buying or selling a home, there are a lot of big decisions to make: where to live, what to spend, when to move. And sometimes people freeze, not because the answer isn't there, but because the process feels heavy. Now look at all these numbers. They are all increasing in September in Florida. Okay, there's no reason to be holding back here, right? But one of the biggest things I can help clients do is get clear on what matters first, not the house, not the lifestyle. Do you want walkability, community, quiet, investment potential? Once we know your core values, the right home becomes obvious. Okay, so if you're thinking about a move, don't start with Zillow at midnight. Start with clarity. Let's talk about what you want life to feel like, and the home will follow. Do you have anything to add to that?
Clarity is power.
Exactly. You got to just know what you want, right? After you know what you want, you don't need to be up at midnight searching through Zillow for homes that probably aren't even listed anymore, because let me tell you, they're still calling me about homes I listed last year. Okay. If you want to work with someone who's going to have the most available and active listings on the market, you need to work with a realtor. So if you have a realtor, please work with the one that's closest to you, that's always done a good job for you. Stick with that realtor because they are the best one to negotiate the best price for you, to get you the best price, and to give you the best information. But if you don't, please reach out to me. I'd be happy. I've got a network all over the United States and Panama, and I can get you a great realtor to help you, or I'd be more than happy to help you. And James, now we're leaving it to you. Oh, and one other thing, please subscribe to this channel, because if you're still watching, I think you enjoyed it, and give it a like, because if you're still watching, I think you've gotten something out of it. And if you want more information, please leave us a message. Ask us a question. Tell us the best thing you thought was involved here in this interview. And please share it with someone else who might have children that they're dealing with right now and need some assistance and help with goal setting, or even to find out what's possible. James.
Well, hello. Great conversation. Great conversation. I do have one question for you, though.
I knew James would.
Yeah.
He always has the best question.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put my questions down.
No, my question is, because I have the opportunity to deal with youth and
Because James is the
adults,
pastor of my church, if you remember, Celebration Beach Church,
and deal with that.
here in
And
Naples, Florida.
the two most difficult things are something that you said, that they have a problem thinking they're being told what to think. That's one. The other is, it seems as though one of the biggest difficulties is learning how to build relationships
Yes.
that are valuable relationships
Yes.
that don't come off of a screen to you, if that makes sense. So kind of elaborate a little bit on that. Tell me what you think about that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest negative impacts of social media is that it has actually confused what it means to be in communication with someone, right? Oftentimes you'll ask a young person, have you talked to so-and-so today? And they'll say yes. And what they mean is they exchange some Messenger or Instagram messages. So I think it's actually upended our perception of what it means to connect, to relate. And I think, the other thing is that one of the things that you mentioned that's really important is, if your underlying standards are low, your relationships are going to be impacted by that. So if what you're trying to do is to solve loneliness or to solve boredom, those are very easy things to do without actually getting your needs met in an optimal way. So how do you want to be treated? What's important to you? What are your values? How would that need to manifest in your relationships? What might it look like to have a real supportive friend? How would you consider your own support of your friends? Is there a difference between how you treat people and how you're willing to be treated? And oftentimes people that are struggling in their friendships, there is actually an unhelpful disconnect between those things. I need to be accessible, I need to be loyal, but I'm willing to not be treated in that way. And that creates an incredible amount of inner discontent.
As you describe it, it would seem that goes beyond just teens and young adults.
Oh, yeah.
That extends to all of us these days.
It does. Look, there is an incredible impact on community because of tech. Oftentimes when I think of my own, I'm technically a millennial, when I think about my own generation's impact on people's ability to meet in person, we kind of cultivated all of these skills to have in-person relationships. And then when tech came along, we removed all of them and we took the convenience of being online. And the result of that on younger generations has been that it's very difficult to meet people in person in the same way. So what does that mean? You have to be intentional. It's easiest to be intentional when you have a vision and something that you're seeking. And that's a lot of the work that I do.
And so how did you come up with the name Incite Coaching?
I mean, the actual definition to move to change, to spark change, it just resonated with me, because the thing that I'm really after is helping people learn how to build a robust and fulfilling life for themselves. Happiness is not a destination, it's a way of living. And so it's not the same for you as it is for me.
Sure.
So you have to build an individualized roadmap to get there. And that's what Incite means to me.
Okay.
It's helping people understand how to live in a way that will make them fulfilled and happy.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming today. We're going to have all of Andrew's information down in the bio so that you can contact him if you want him to answer any questions, schedule any of his retreats or private sessions or whatever you want to do, he's going to be available for you to talk to him. And do you have anything else to add?
That's it. The easiest way to get a hold of me is through my website, which is Incite, INCITE-coaching.com.
Great. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. This has been a wonderful show. James, do you have anything else to add?
No.
Well,
Next
then.
time, bring us some syrup.
You came from Vermont without syrup. What do you think of that? Who does that? Anyway, thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
You think she's a good girl, but once you get to know her, you realize she's everything. She's crazy, she's funny, she's honest, and you'll never know what she'll do next.